What is up, everybody? Welcome to Why Invest Wednesday. We're doing it a little bit early this today to see how you guys like it, but let's get into it because we're going to talk about something that's of utmost importance. And why we may be talking about the spring, we're actually talking about what this looks like for you in the years to come. So we're going to get straight into it. We're going to work through it. So if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat and hopefully I'll see them. But if not, I will see them at the end and I will make sure that I get those answered as quickly as possible through one of these lives or maybe a DM. I'm Jeremy Kane. I sell homes in the Denver and Northern Colorado real estate markets. And I'm super pumped to dive into this because it's something that is key to what's going on. So let's go. So most Denver homeowners still think the spring market runs through May and June. Get the house ready after the snow melts, list around Memorial Day, sell while families are trying to move before the next school year. That was the traditional playbook, and that's what we have seen over and over and over again over time. However, a lot has changed. Something with COVID, summers are pretty much like vacation mode all day, every day. Vacation mode for you, vacation mode for your families, and also vacation mode for your buyers that are out looking. If you've ever bought a home in the summer, sometimes you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to buy this house. We're good to go. We see it, but I'm going to be on a cruise for 2 weeks, right? The traditional playbook was different this year in Denver. By the time Memorial Day arrived, the strongest part of the spring market may already have been behind us. New listings reached their high point in April, which is a trend we've seen. DMAR, our Association of Realtors, says new inventory and pending sales peaked in April, that both May and June behaved like a summer market, not an extension of spring. While the days change and the seasons change, into June, we're talking spring market in the winter here in Colorado almost. RE Colorado, our MLS monthly numbers make the market look even more front-loaded. Pending activity was strongest in March. New listings peaked in April, and both sides of the market softened as we moved into June. This is the norm, and this is what we've seen over time. So that creates two major problems. Seller who waited until late May or June until the kids got out of school may have entered the market after the strongest demand window had already passed. And buyers who are waiting until fall for more leverage may already be seeing some of those conditions right now. Tonight or today, I'm going to show you what changed, why this may be more than just a one-year fluke, and how buyers and sellers need to adjust their strategies if Denver real estate calendar has officially moved forward. Welcome back to Why Invest Wednesday. We're here to cut through the noise of the Denver real estate market on socials and what you're reading in the headlines. We talk about the numbers, what it actually means to homeowners, buyers, sellers, and investors through Denver Metro and the Northern Colorado market. While we're here, please comment. Let me know you're there. Say what's up. I'm so glad to see you. And if you're watching on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook, I need 4 more followers over on Instagram to go live over there. So check out JKCO Realtor _ and check it out. And of course, if you're ever thinking about buying or selling, please shoot me a DM. Every person's situation is different. And just because the market is hot at this time or not at this time, your life, your lifestyle, your family, your calendar matters more than most of these data points, period. Denver Metro is not one single market. Castle Rock may not peak at exactly the same time Arvada, Thornton, or others may behave differently. From Central Denver to Fort Collins and Loveland, they can all follow their own patterns. Comment your area, and I can look at the current inventory, pending activities, days on market, and price reductions where you are actually considering making a move, and we can have a private conversation about your plans. Because the lesson today is not that every homeowner should list on the same magical Tuesday in March. The lesson is that we need to stop blindly planning around Memorial Day and start watching the leading indicators in specific markets. So let's go back. The traditional Denver spring playbook, and this has changed, right? One year we had the highest, activity, the best, opportunity to go under contract was actually Super Bowl weekend in the first week of February. Since COVID, there's been this kind of roll. Then we've also seen it be on Easter weekend. So sometime between that February 1st and May 1st timeline typically is where, since COVID, we have seen it. Traditionally, January and February were preparation season, right? And early activities started coming to the market. March and April, inventory and buyer demand accelerate. May and June, we have some sort of peak selling and moving season. July and August, the summer slowdown begins. Fall, fewer buyers, more seller flexibility. And winter, lower activity and greater seasonality. We see a lot of people pull their homes off the market during this time. And this is where we have to be extremely strategic based on your exact location. So if you're thinking about selling, comment your area below or send me a DM and I can send you the actual data that supports that city, that zip code, that neighborhood, and we can make a plan. Historically, the school calendar helped reinforce that pattern. Families wanted to list after winter, sell before summer ended, before the next school year, and avoid disrupting children during the academic year. The warmer Denver weather also helped. Landscaping looked better, daylight lasted longer, more buyers attended showings, sellers could complete exterior work before moving, making going on the market easier, making the move easier, and so on. I've moved several times in my life in a snowstorm. First time, I think I was, 14, 15 years old when my parents did it in the spring, right? It snows in the spring. It snows almost into June sometimes. It has snowed in June here. So you never know, right? For years, real estate agents could almost operate from the same seasonal calendar. The flowers came out, the listing sign followed, and everybody collectively pretended June was the only month anyone was illegally allowed to move. But DMAR says the traditional pattern has become less predictable. From 2017 through the pandemic boom, Denver regularly experienced stronger spring competition, rising prices, and tightening inventory. Since mortgage rates changed the market in late 2022, that familiar rhythm has not fully returned. When do you personally think Denver's spring market begins as a consumer? When is the best time to sell? What do you think? Right? I'm going to tell you the data and we're going to go from there. But as a feeling, is it January, March? Put that in the comments for me and we can talk about that. After the first 70-degree weekend, when everyone suddenly remembered they own a backyard. Okay, let's get to it, right? So when we look at these things, we have to understand the statistics vary based on location, based on everything. Everything you see in the headlines, most of the things you see on, realtor social media pages are absolutely, hyper or general, right? They're getting stats from their, MLS. They're putting how many new listings, how many pending listings, all the things. But that's a huge landscape of a picture of what it actually means to you. And so that's where we're trying to get to today. RE Colorado reported that seller activity reached its strongest level in April, while pending activity was already extremely strong in March, and then generally declined through June. Let's walk through the actual sequence. March was the acceleration month. New listings rose 5,986 in March. Pending listings reached 4,615. Pending activity jumped 31% from February, and median time on market fell to 18 days. That's closer to the numbers we saw during the COVID era, not necessarily under 10, but that was something that we need to focus on and pay attention to. Everyone was excited. The market was back. We were out of this, doldrum, and here we are back, pushing, median days on market 30, 45, 60, depending on where you are. Buyers were not waiting for summer. They were already moving aggressively in March. April brought the largest number of new listings, 6,642 to be exact, in the Denver metro area. 4,326 pending listings, median time on market down to 15 days. Closing activity was up from March. This was the moment when the strongest combination of selection, buyer participation, and market speed came together. In May, new listings fell to 6,002, pending listings declined to 4,232, and median days on market increased to 16. RE Colorado described the listing decline as cooling after the earlier spring surge. Now let's go to June. New pending listings fell again to 5,754. Pending listings dropped to 3,867, and median days on market increased to 19. They said that the market had transitioned from spring into the summer market. I want to be transparent about one detail. DMAR's June report says both new inventory and pending sales peaked in April. RE Colorado's published monthly numbers show new listings peaking in April, but pending listings were actually strongest in March. Those reports use different data sheets and report conversations, so I'm not going to pretend the discrepancy does not exist. Both sources support the same strategic conclusion. The stronger buyer market and activity was concentrated in March and April, not in May and June. If anything, RE Colorado's numbers suggest demand may have moved forward even more aggressively than the DMAR summary indicates. What's the key indicator here? Those interest rates, right? Those pesky interest rates that people are talking about. So this was not a market crash. Now, somebody will hear that activity declined after April and immediately jump to, here comes the crash. No, a seasonal handoff and a market collapse are not the same event. June still produced 4,024 closed sales, $614,000 median price, 19 median days in MLS, approximately 13 weeks of inventory. A market RE Colorado described as balanced for one of the first times since COVID. Prices were up approximately 1% year over year in the RE Colorado report, and DMAR described June as a market in equilibrium. Active inventory near decade highs, prices broadly flat, buyers holding real negotiating power, and move-in ready properties still performing well. The market did not fall off a cliff after April. It changed gears. Good homes still sold, well-priced homes still attracted buyers, prices remained broadly stable. But buyers gained time to compare properties, ask for concessions to buy down those rates and save some of that out-of-pocket expense, and walk away from homes that just needed too much work. That is a timing and leverage story. It is not a foreclosure crisis story. The Denver spring market did not crash in April. It clocked out early. DMAR reported in April 2026 median close prices of approximately $605,000. That compares with $604,000 in April of 2025 and $602,000 in April of 2024. Yes, our market has flattened out. There is still opportunities in a, appreciating market at 1 or 2%, but they're different than we got used to in COVID. 3 consecutive Aprils were separated by approximately $3,000. So we have to understand that's a market shift, something we're not necessarily used to when it comes to, appreciation rates in Denver on a 60-year average. Usually they're around 4, 5, 6%. And now coming back at 1 or 2%, homeowners feel like the market is crashed, but ultimately it's just not giving you those super sexy numbers that came out of COVID when it sometimes was 10 or 20% at a time. This is one of the most important pieces of the story. April may still be the strongest activity window, but the traditional spring price explosion has flattened. There was a time when sellers entered spring almost expecting the calendar to manufacture appreciation for them. List in March, collect 10 offers, watch the prices run away from the comparable sales. That is not the current market here in Denver or Northern Colorado. Today, the spring advantage may be less about creating a massive price spike and more about giving the seller the largest buyer pool, better showing activity, faster absorption, a better chance of selling before inventory accumulates. More leverage before buyers become fatigued is the key. The spring advantage still matters, but it is increasingly an active activity advantage, not a guaranteed appreciation event. So why may the housing calendar be moving earlier? So is this simply one weird year in Denver? Possibly, but I don't think so. 1 year of data should never be treated like a new law of physics. But new national survey suggests that the shifts may be broader than just Denver. I actually had a conversation with somebody in New York, and he said, once the kids get out of school in the middle of June, our market goes dormant until they're back in school. Why? Because people are traveling. That buyer pool is more distracted. They have vacations planned. They have all kinds of different things going on. A 2026 working paper by a researcher, Yihan Hu and Simel Sulak, found that U.S. housing seasonality had shifted earlier since 2021. Their findings include spring activity strengthening, the traditional summer peak weakening, March gaining approximately 1.8 percentage points of annual moves, April gaining approximately 1.4 percentage points, June losing approximately 3 percentage points. So that's really where it falls off. July losing approximately 1.9 percentage points, and spring absorbing approximately 4 additional percentage points of annual moves. Summer was contracting by approximately 4.8 percent points. The research used housing data, census mobility, data and moving related Google searches. The paper is working paper and should not be treated as final peer-reviewed proof, but its findings align closely with Denver's 2026 pattern. The research did not say people stopped moving during the summer. It said the annual cycle moved forward. More households are beginning to process during spring, and fewer are waiting until June or July. When more buyers and sellers enter the market at the same time, the market becomes more active. More matches happen, transactions occur faster, buyers have more options, but they also have more competition. When the activity moves into March and April, the strongest part of the housing market moves it. So, what's the explanation? Possibly remote work. The researchers suggest remote work could be one possible explanation. People may now have more flexibility when they relocate, where they live, whether they need to coordinate a move around a traditional office schedule. But the paper does not prove remote work caused the change. Treat that as a theory, not answer carved into a stone tablet. Then you have all kinds of different variables, right? One that I notice is less people have kids. Kids are more mobile, right? They've gone through some things probably in their education pattern, or we have adapted through COVID and that whole disaster. And maybe we're just a little bit more willing to move in the middle of the school year, keep the kiddos in the school, maybe change the next year, but that's a big deal. The next one is mortgage rates. Mortgage rates will always be a point, since now everything is blasted out. You can probably determine about what the going mortgage rate is by simply opening up an Instagram or TikTok feed. The average 30-year mortgage rate was approximately 6% on March 5th, 6.46 on April 2nd, generally around 6.5 during June, and 6.58 in July by July 23rd. So this is a gradual impact, showing that earlier on the rates were lower. Buyers are making decisions based on this. Rates were therefore much more favorable in early March than they were through much of late spring and summer. We cannot say rates alone caused the spring market to peak early, but they likely played a role. A buyer who saw rates close to 6 in the early March and had a different affordability calculation than buyers looking at approximately 6.5 or higher later in the season. The buyer waiting for better conditions may have watched the payment move in the opposite direction. That can concentrate demand into whatever affordability window it appears first. But you, as well as me, know that buyers oftentimes are watching that. They're like, oh, I need a lower rate. And then it gets to a point, and then they get into the market. But as you know, rates change pretty steadily across a week, a day. We've seen massive movement with our economy uncertainty. So buyers are no longer waiting for the traditional buying season. They're watching mortgage payments instead. When the payment creates an opportunity, the season starts. And how long that opportunity lasts, That's anyone's best guess. So if you see a rate that you absolutely love, you talk to a mortgage, broker or lender, and they're talking to you and they're like, okay, this is the rate, right? We need to act fast because that's the rate that got you into it. And it could be different by the next Monday. So we need to make sure that we are aware of that. And as you guys know, I stay in great contact with my lenders, but time is of the essence. When it's time to go, it's time to go. When you see that rate, it's great. You can't just walk around looking for that dream house at the lowest possible price point to fall in your lap, because you may have just wasted the opportunity at the rate that was originally promised. But then what happens? Then maybe we have some times where the rates fall. Well, if the rates fall during that time, you can relock the loan, you can do those things. And if they fall enough, eventually after 6 months, you can definitely refinance and go from there. So the model estimates that its model estimated that weeks could offer stronger pricing, more buyer attention, less competition, and faster selling conditions, fewer price reductions than a typical week. It just depends. This does not mean every Denver homeowner should list during the second week of March. Snow happens, life happens, your home might not be ready, your particular neighborhood may follow a slightly different pattern. But this reinforces the bigger point. The seller preparing to list after Memorial Day may be using an outdated calendar. If the strongest listing opportunity is in March, preparation needs to begin months earlier, not when the tulips finally receive permission to come outside. And for someone thinking about selling in the spring of 2027, preparation may need to begin now because those tulips are already out, right? You have hopefully green grass, drought pending, as well as, you've been working on the exterior of your home. So this is huge. So let's make this practical. What should a homeowner actually do with this information? Seller strategy number 1, capture the property at its best, which is probably right now. If you're considering selling in the spring of 2027, some of your listing presentations should begin right now. Spring may be arriving earlier in the real estate market, but March is not always when a Colorado yard looks the best. Your grass may still be dormant, the trees may not have leaves, the flowers may not be blooming, and there's always the possibility that snow sitting on the roof or covering the landscaping during the exact week we need to launch. That means summer and early fall can be the best times to capture professional exterior photos, drone photography and video, backyard patio footage, landscaping, gardens and flowers, mature trees with full leaves, mountain or open space views, neighborhood parks, trails, and amenities, exterior lifestyle footage. This is all stuff that people will dive into and see. And if you are considering making a move, let's have a conversation. You call me on the number on the screen and I will absolutely have a conversation with you, see what it is. And it doesn't mean that, if we get the photography and life changes, that you absolutely have to list your home, but we can have a conversation on that and we can go from there. If you're even considering selling in the spring of 2027, please send me a text, 303-543-1453. Again, it's on the screen. You can even scan that QR code and book a call with me. We may not need to photograph the entire home yet. The interior still can be updated, staged, and photographed closer to the listing date. But we can capture the exterior while the grass is green, the flowers are blooming, and the outdoor spaces actually show the lifestyle a buyer will be purchasing. Then, when we are ready to list, February or March, we're not relying on gray skies, dormant landscaping, and a surprise Denver snowstorm to introduce your home to the market. As you know, it doesn't snow very often in Colorado. So if you have pictures of a filled front yard and then it melts off as it does so quickly in Colorado, and we're still on the market, a month later, 2 months later, then the photos kind of stick out like a sore thumb. They know that the property was probably, listed early on because those snow photos are typically the first photos that people see on the internet. The photos and videos still need to be accurately represented the property when it is listed. So we will review everything and update everything that is materially changed. But capturing the home at its best gives us more options. If Denver's spring market now begins in March, your spring market may need to be created the summer before. So let's prepare earlier. Begin the pricing and preparation process 6 to 8 weeks before the target list date. Complete repairs, staging, and final interior photography before the planned launch. Do not wait for the entire neighborhood to list first. Build the listing timeline before the new year whenever possible. If you want to capture early spring demand, calling your agent or me in late April is not preparation. That is a distress signal. And calling in February may already be too late to capture the best exterior presentation. So strategy number 3, stop assuming May and June will be a rescue for your price. Do not overprice in April expecting more buyers in June. Watch pending activity, showing traffic, and competing listings. Make pricing corrections early. The first 2 to 3 weeks are still critical. The calendar is not going to negotiate with the buyer on your behalf. If the home is overpriced in April, June is unlikely to arrive wearing a cape to save it. Seller strategy number 4, understand the summer market you're entering. A summer seller may need to compete with more accumulated inventory, longer buyer decision times, more price reductions, more concession requests, greater scrutiny of conditions. Buyers are comparing many similar options with their inventory rising. That does not mean summer is a bad time to sell. It means summer requires a different strategy than peak pricing in the spring. Number 5, win on condition and certainty. DMARS still says, and it's been like this for 2 or 3 years, that move-in ready homes are commanding and growing premium while homes with deferred maintenance are sitting longer. So let's focus on the mechanical condition, get those furnace and HVACs, serviced, make sure the roof and windows are in good shape. If you do have a hailstorm, please reach out to me, number below, before you give your money to somebody who knocked on your door. Paint and flooring is an easy update. Clean presentation, realistic pricing, and strong disclosure. A clear concession strategy is something you will probably need to focus on when we're moving forward. Comment your city or neighborhood and tell me when you're considering selling. I can look at when listings, pending sales, and price reductions have been peaking in your area. And if spring 2027 is even a possibility, let's talk now about capturing the exterior of your home while the yard, trees, flowers, and outdoor spaces still look their best. Text me the word equity. I will put together a quick home evaluation to help you map out the photography, preparation, and pricing timeline so we are ready before the early spring market begins, not reacting after it already started. And then we'll revisit the price when we get there. What does this mean for buyers? Let's talk about it. The earlier spring peak creates a very different opportunity for buyers. The buyers waiting until September for fall leverage may already be standing in it right here, right now at the end of July. So let's talk strategies for buyers. June and July may already offer fall-like leverage. Look for home sitting beyond the first weekend, multiple price reductions, listings that return to market, vacant properties, sellers who have already purchased another home, inspection credits, closing cost concessions, and mortgage rate buydowns are really a reality at this time. So do not assume you need to wait for pumpkins and football before sellers become negotiable. Some of those conversations are already happening while everyone else is at the pool. Buyer strategy number 2, more leverage does not mean every home is a deal. Move-in ready homes may still sell quickly, receive multiple offers, hold close to asking price or even above, require faster decisions. The buyer advantage is strongest on homes with poor presentation, deferred maintenance, longer market time, unrealistic initial pricing, and motivated sellers. Strategy number 3, compare the discount with the mortgage rate. A lower purchase price may not fully offset a higher interest rate. Buyers should evaluate purchase price, seller concessions, rate buydown, monthly payment, future refinance possibilities, repair budget, and total cost required. You do not live in the purchase price. You live in the payment, the maintenance, and the life the house allows you to build. Buyers, comment the area where you are searching. Tell me whether you are searching or seeing more good options, more overpriced options, more price reductions, or the same 3 houses you have already rejected 14 times. I can send you a current comparison. I can set you up on a property search, and we can develop your strategy around your situation and have a little bit of negotiating power. So now let's go to investors. An earlier seasonal slowdown creates opportunities around stale listings, vacant homes, properties requiring updates. seller carrying 2 house payments, listings that missed the spring market, properties with poor marketing but usable fundamentals. Investors should not automatically buy because a home has been sitting. Sometimes the listing is stale because the seller mispriced it. Sometimes it is stale because the property has the personality of an abandoned dentist office. The investment still needs to work based on your purchase price, your numbers, renovation costs, insurance, taxes, HOA, rent potential, and long-term demand, and most importantly to investors, an exit strategy. Seasonality can improve negotiating leverage. It cannot rescue bad math. So let's talk about the important counter arguments here. Before we declare the traditional spring market dead and hold a small memorial service, there are some important limitations. Argument 1 year does not establish a permanent rule. 2026 could be affected by unusual interest rate movement. Economic uncertainty may have influenced buyer behavior with the war in Iran. Future years may follow a different pattern or have its own set of problems. School calendars still matter. Families with school-age children still frequently prefer summer moves. That demand has not disappeared. It may simply begin the search and contract process earlier. Argument number 3, every neighborhood is different. Entry-level detached luxury properties, condos, new construction, northern Colorado, central Denver, and suburban communities. Each can have a different demand curve. Argument number 4, good homes can ignore the broader trend. A properly priced, updated home in a desirable location can still sell quickly in July, October, or January. Seasonality influences the market. It does not control every individual transaction. This is not a universal law. It is a strategy signal, but the only part of the strategy that matters is your situation. The 4 numbers to watch instead of the calendar. Instead of asking, is it spring yet? Watch these 4 numbers. New listings. Are more sellers entering the market, or has the flow peaked? Pending sales. Are buyers absorbing the available inventory? Days on market. Are homes moving faster or taking longer? Price reductions and concessions. Are sellers still protecting price, or are they adjusting to buyer leverage? The calendar tells you what usually happens. The leading indicators tell you what is happening right now for your area. So please comment your city, neighborhood, or community below. Tell me whether you are buying, selling, or simply watching the market. I will help you look at the actual timing in your area instead of handing your generic Denver-wide answer. For homeowners, text me equity for a quick home evaluation and a strategy conversation. If you are thinking about selling in spring of 2027, now may be the right time to capture the exterior photography, videos, while the landscaping still looks at its best. And before you make a move into or out of Denver metro area or northern Colorado, call or text me 303-543-1453. We can decide whether now is the right time, whether the next early spring window makes more sense, or whether staying exactly where you are at is the smartest financial decision. Here's a position I want you to leave with. Denver's spring housing market is not disappearing. It is arriving earlier, peaking earlier, and handing the market over to the summer sooner than many buyers and sellers realize. That does not mean prices crashed in May. They did not. It does not mean homes cannot sell during the summer. They can. And it does not mean every buyer should rush out and purchase something tomorrow. What it means is the old real estate calendar is becoming less reliable. Sellers who assume the strongest demand will automatically wait for them until June, may be entering a market just a little bit too late. And if you are considering selling in the spring of 2027, preparation may need to begin now. That could mean capturing the yard, flowers, trees, patio, views, and exterior lifestyle while everything still looks its best. Then completing the interior preparation and final photography closer to the listing date. Buyers who assume they need to wait until fall for negotiating power may already be missing opportunities in June and July. The smartest move is not to guess which best month it is and chase the market. Watch the inventory, watch the pending sales, watch the days on market, and watch the price reductions. And most importantly, understand what is happening in the specific neighborhood and price range where you are making a decision, because real estate is local, timing is personal, and following a calendar designed for a different market is not a strategy. Comment your area below, reach out with any questions about Denver and the suburbs or Northern Colorado, or if you're exploring areas to move to, before you move into, out of, or around the Denver metro and Northern Colorado area, please let's build a plan first. I'll see you next Wednesday.